This is Time Signatures with Jim Irvin, a podcast and radio program presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan.
Driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
And now, here he is, your host, Jim Irvin.
Baby, I'm home.
Well, thank you, Parker, and welcome to Time Signatures. I'm your host, Jim Irvin, and today's guest has been dubbed a natural-born star. She's been making her rounds in the blues rock scene since 2016, releasing 5 albums and teaming up with the likes of Cody Dixon, Watermelon Slim, and Cedric Burnside, just to name a few. Her new album, Shout Sister Shout, was recorded at the famed Rancho de la Luna studio in Joshua Tree, California, with an A-list of musicians to back her, and she's currently on tour promoting her new work, making a stop in Grand Rapids, Michigan on May 21st at Billy's Lounge for a concert. This is being sponsored in part by the West Michigan Blues Society. Belgian singer-songwriter Ghalia Volt, it is indeed a pleasure to welcome you to Time Signatures. How are you?
Good. Hello, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. Glad to have you here. And, you know, there's a lot for us to dive into, Ghalia, so I want to get right to the heart of things and get things moving. Where did you get your start in music in general and the blues in particular?
I guess when I found out about Skip James and G.B. Lenore, I got quite mesmerized. And I was into R&B like Ruth Brown and Laverne Baker. But once I got to discover, Skip James and that very kind of mesmerizing, profound style of music, I started to explore more, and that's pretty much my start in the blues. G.B. Lenore and Skip James.
Now, did you have any other big influences as you were growing up musically?
As far as blues musicians, or just in general?
Just music in general, yeah.
Yeah, I grew up more like in the punk side, like I was a big fan of the Stooges and the Cramps and MC5, good rock and roll. And then I just started digging and try to get to know more about the music I listened to. I got into rockabilly a lot through the psychobilly music that I used to listen to. I don't know if you know about psychobilly music, but really that brought me to the rockabilly, which brought me to the rock and roll, the rhythm and blues, followed by the blues. So it's been really progressive and just going back to the roots.
So how do the blues differ in Belgium, if they do, versus here in the States? Are there similarities in the genre over there?
Well, obviously, especially my generation, I did not grow up listening to R&B or roots music on the radio at all. So, you can find some, there's been only one joint downtown Brussels where I grew up, where I could listen to blues music, and those were the jams, and that's it. And then later on I realized, but I left Belgium already, but when I went back and I found out in Ghent, in the Flemish side of Belgium, there's way more blues and roots music going on than where I grew up.
Okay.
So it wasn't really a thing.
So having left the busking circuit, which I did not know the meaning of the word till I looked it up, is basically street performances in
That's
Brussels for the United States. You captured the attention of the New Orleans music scene, serving as front woman for the local favorite band Mama's Boys. How did that come together for you?
Well, so I started busking in Belgium because there's so many shows you can get, because there's not a lot of clubs, not a lot of that kind of music. So I decided to make the streets my own club, and I could play anytime I wanted to and getting paid for it. When I started doing that, there was no way I could go back to a regular day job. And so I moved. I was traveling here, kind of doing a pilgrim, just trying to discover all those cities and little towns that the songs I listened to talk about. And I got to meet the guys here in New Orleans, and we did a demo, and then I introduced that demo to Roof Records, who decided to just do a full length album of of that sounded. Those songs. Before that, so basically when I was 21, I came here with a guitar on my back, and I started playing here, after busking in the streets of Brussels. I had a little money, and then I came and spent it here and try to get on stage and try to meet some musicians, and record was the goal. And so I did that in St. Louis and here in New Orleans. And then turned out that this band was down to tour a little bit and record this full album, which we did, and it was a nice way to break into the professional life of a tour musician.
Yeah, oh yeah. Now your 2017 debut album with Mama's Boys, Let the Demons Out, really got people's attention. Classic Rock called it an irresistible force. And on the heels of that success, you headed for the hill country of Coldwater, Mississippi. I'd like you to talk about Mississippi Blend and that collaboration for a moment.
Yeah, so that's pretty much when I decided that we're not in the '60s anymore. There's no band that just lasts forever. So to me, like I've had like three bands at that point, and I just decided to concentrate on myself, and what did I wanted to do was to just explore um that studio, the Zebra Ranch studio over there, because I've been really soaking the vibe on the players like Robert Beeble Walker and Big George Brock, and the youngest
Sure.
people like Luther and Cody Dickinson, who really to me are like just musical genius. Um, so after that, yeah, that's how we decided to go over there and record in Cold Water, and I was honored to have Cedric Bernstein playing the drums, actually sharing the drums with Cody Dickinson on various tracks,
Okay.
and we invited Lightning Malcolm, we invited Watermelon Slim on that, and it was just like me soaking up the vibe over there in Mississippi, but coming with my own touch on it, which is pretty just organic and raw. Like there's no filter that music, and that's even nowadays that's how I look at the album.
Sure. You know, going back to the global pandemic, that was a real showstopper for a lot of people in the music industry, but that wasn't the case for you, was it?
No, actually, I never worked as much as during the pandemic. I just, I'm obviously not from here, and I'm working on working visa. And the last thing I wanted to do is just use people's unemployment. Like I wasn't. I could probably have gotten it. I just never wanted it. So I decided, I gotta eat, I gotta rent to pay, and I just worked everywhere. The COVID was really bad. Well, I would just go somewhere else. So luckily, I could play both in Europe and United States. And so when it was really bad
Sure.
in Europe, I would just come and play here. When it was here, I would go there. But also, if it was bad in the south, I would just go north, and in the west, and just surf the wave, and that's how, as a one person band, it was easily to play in small clubs, and also I didn't have to pay a full band and four hotel rooms,
Sure.
so it really was easier, and I was easier on the club too, who couldn't really hire the full band. So then I started working a lot, and that journey was great because um one woman band was really like such a symbol of freedom musically and on the road. It was just really nice.
Very cool. Yeah, I was going to ask you about One Woman Band. That was the album that emerged out of the pandemic. How were you received when you were out performing during the pandemic? Were you welcomed? Were they extremely cautious?
So what turned out that people actually loved the one woman band project. Like when I started that project, it was really just basically to survive the pandemic and keep
Sure.
playing and pay my rent and just be entertained because that's what we do, we play music.
Right.
But people seem to love it even nowadays. I'm not necessarily trying to play a one woman band showcase, but some people like that better than the bands. Now a regular band, now I have like a new band, a trio, and it's great because like now the trio, we don't have a bass player. I'm the only guitar player. We have a drummer and a keyboard, and all together, I feel like we still feel the vibe of one woman band.
Okay.
Technically, I'm still the only woman. It's still a one woman band. um,
Okay.
but so yeah, it was great adventure, great journey. People love the songs. The songs were written out of a train travel through the country during the pandemic. So I left New Orleans and I crossed the country, and write the whole album aboard trains and trains during 1 month.
Wow. Wow. Now, I want to talk about your studio choice for your newest work, Shout Sister Shout. It almost sounds like it was a spiritual experience recording in that studio, yeah?
Yeah, sure.
And talk about working with the legendary David Catching on top of it. That must have been an experience.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely, once you get there, um, obviously it's like the middle of the desert, the moon is shining. There's no other lights than the moon. You can hear the coyotes. David was super laid back and like fun to hang with, and there's no filters again. It was just good vibe and like kind of like a rose standing. It's all about the playing, There's no nerdy thing talking about like gear for an hour and a half. It's all about the playing and the
Okay.
musicians too, because like the cast of musician directors really, really cool. We have Danny Frankel, who's played drums with many, many people, including Lou Reed, and then had a Ben, uh, little Ben Allman. He was keyboard for Dr. John at some point of
Hmm.
Dr. John's career. So, we definitely vibed, and it was a nice, really worked really hard though, because like sometimes, like a session could last 10 hours.
Sure.
Um, but definitely a beautiful time and totally submerged by the desert vibe, and I'll be getting out of there and like running into a cactus. um Trying to go back to where I was staying. So it's just like it's a it's a good time.
Very cool. Galia, I have to ask now, you're out touring, promoting your album, and I would assume you're having a good time. How are you being received out there on this tour with the new material?
Oh, it's been great. Like obviously I've been doing a lot of different configuration and different bands, sometimes with a harp player,
Sure.
bass and drums, or sometimes with like two guitars, or the keys or saxophones. But I don't know, like it's probably my favorite version of the band right now, and it's a power trio with no bass. We share the bass lines with the keys and myself, and I'll be using an octave pedal. He just got like a we have a setup. We still have like 4 amps on stage, but it's all about a good sound and raw sounding, sharing the bass lines and a good energy. Like I'm really having fun playing those songs. So that's you can tell that, like it's just like it's a good energy on stage at the very moment, and I'm really enjoying it.
Excellent. Now, I wanted to ask you, and it's only because of the fact I'm going to be talking to her soon. Have you met or run in similar circles with Frenchie Mo down there in New Orleans?
Mm-mm.
No? Okay. Yeah, I'm only asking, as I said, because I'm going to be talking to her soon. But
Uh-huh.
I wanted to ask you, where can people go to buy your music, pick up some merch, maybe book you for a gig while you're out running the roads?
Yeah, well, number one, they gotta come to the show, because it's gonna be a
Sure.
good one. I'm very looking forward to it. Then you can find me online. Pretty much everything you think of, I have it. Including, of course, the website, the Deezer, Spotify, iTunes, everything that that nowadays as an artist we need to have. The best way, of course, is to come say hi at the show and get a records. I mean, I like my records, I like my CDs. When you drive for like 15 hours, you're happy to have a bunch of CDs in your car and a CD
Sure.
player. So yeah, but they can find me on Instagram, Facebook, everything.
Well, Ghalia, we are looking forward to seeing you on the 21st of May. That's just a little over a week away in Grand Rapids at Billy's Lounge. Look for the details. If you want to find out more, you can go to Ghalia's website and check that out. But I want to thank you very much for joining me today on Time Signatures. And also to you, my listeners, my friends, my followers, and fans. Thank you so much for being here, because without you, none of this would be possible. And I'd also like you to take just a moment and click below on the subscribe and notify buttons so you don't miss an episode. Ghalia Volt, once again, thank you so much for joining us today. It's a pleasure
No, my
to have
pleasure.
you.
Pleasure. Thank you, Jim.
All right, very good. Jim Irvin reminding you that keeping the blues alive is everyone's responsibility, but preserving the history of the blues one story at a time, that's my mission. Until next time, be well. So long.
This has been Time Signatures with Jim Irvin, presented by the Capital Area Blues Society in Lansing, Michigan. For more information on cabs, visit capitalareablues.org. You can find this episode and past episodes at lccconnect.org. The Time Signatures theme song, Michigan Roads, is used by permission and was written by Root Doctor, featuring Freddie Cunningham.
You know I'm trying, baby, driving up and down these Michigan roads, yeah.
Until next time, keep on keeping the blues alive.